All right, everybody, welcome back to True Crime with Lamb Investigations and
Hey, I'm here. I'm
Frank
I'm
from
Frank.
Fridays with Frank.
That's me.
And I talked Frank into being here with me to go through a true crime case.
I wanted to check it out and figured I'd sit in the passenger seat and see what's going on, see where this ride goes.
And Frank doesn't know anything about this case yet except what he can see right here in front of us. So he's going to be learning about it as you do. This involves a murder, a wrongful conviction, another murder, possibly another murder, and somebody who almost got away with it.
Really?
All right, here's the case. From wrong to right. This will make sense in a little bit. So, to do this, we got to go all the way back to December 27th. So, December 27th, the police get a call from a man named Russ Faria. Now, Russ Faria comes home, finds his wife brutally stabbed on the couch. As a matter of fact, she'd been stabbed 55 times, and the knife was sticking out of her neck.
Oh!
So he calls and says, hey, my wife has been murdered. This is about 9:41 p.m. on December 27th. So the police show up. Now, who's the prime suspect in a case like this?
Him. 100% of the time.
Once you rule out whether if it's not a suicide, and honestly, 55 times, and some of these stab wounds were down to the bone, and then the knife's still in her neck, it's really hard to.
No, it's not.
So you rule out the suicide pretty quickly.
That's pretty quick, yeah.
So then he becomes the prime suspect.
Prime suspect, right.
Well, the detectives come in, they start to investigate this, and they go through this case, and they lock onto him immediately.
Oh, of
Now,
course.
let me show you who we're talking about. The lady that was murdered was Betsy Faria. Her name was Elizabeth K. Meyer Faria. And in October of 2011, she was diagnosed with cancer. She had breast cancer. It had progressed pretty bad. And so in December, she was doing chemotherapy.
Makes sense. So
Betsy, she worked at State Farm. And on December 22nd, just days before she was murdered, she actually went out of town to get chemotherapy on December 22nd. She goes to chemo, and her husband, Russ, was under the assumption that she was either going to stay at her mom's house or he would come pick her up the next day. Well, her husband, Russ Faria, was going to pick her up. But he didn't know that a friend by the name of Pamela Hupp actually calls and says, hey, look, I want to come and pick you up, and I'll bring you back home. So Pamela drives to the mom's house, which is where Betsy was,
Right.
Picks her up, brings her back home, and then this was about 7 o'clock that they get to the house. About 9:40 is when the husband comes home, finds his wife dead.
So she was the last person to see Betsy alive.
That took all of about 10 seconds, less than 10 seconds, for Frank to say, hold on.
Yeah, wait a second.
But that's not what the detectives do. They lock in to Russ, and they don't look at anybody else. Now, they ignore the cell phone pings. They ignore some other key pieces of evidence, and they take this to trial. They actually arrested Russ Faria the day after his wife's funeral. They charged him on January 4th, just maybe 10 days after the murder. They arrested him. He got a $250,000 bond.
Which is pretty low if you murder your wife.
It's pretty low. Yeah. This wasn't 2011, but now he's being arrested. Obviously, this is now 2012. So 2012, beginning of 2012, gets $250,000 bond. He couldn't pay it. He didn't have the money, so he stayed in jail until the trial, which was in November of 2013.
Which is 2 years.
And he went to trial on November 18th. Now, Russ's lawyers were saying, whoa, hold on. There was somebody else whose phone was pinging there, and there was other evidence, and there was a really big piece of evidence. And let me see if you think this is a big piece of evidence.
All right.
Just days before, on the 22nd of December, these two worked together. Okay. So Betsy signs over her life insurance policy to Pam. $150,000 life insurance policy. She takes and makes Pam the sole recipient, beneficiary of the life insurance policy.
Instead of her husband.
Now, would that have come into play on a trial for you?
That's a huge part.
Nope. Detectives didn't think that was as big of a deal.
Now
As a
you have
matter of
opportunity
fact,
and you have motive.
exactly. We talk about that, means, opportunity, and motive.
Right.
Not only that, she actually testifies and says that the reason Russ was mad at Betsy was because she had signed the insurance policy over. So
You have to do some mental gymnastics to get there.
you do.
Yeah.
But this is what not only detectives do and prosecutors do. They don't even bring Pamela into the equation. And 3 days later, Russ is convicted on November 21st. He is convicted of murder of his wife. And a month later, they actually give him his sentence. And he's sentenced to life plus 30 years.
No.
So
Now, was he adamant through this entire thing? Like, hey, I didn't kill my wife.
adamant he doesn't kill his wife. He's like, you got the wrong person. So his attorneys immediately start going for an appeal.
Yeah.
The appeal keeps getting shut down. Finally, it makes it to the court of this was in Missouri, and it goes to Lincoln County, Missouri. Yeah. So then it finally goes all the way up to the appellate court, the district court, and they say, you need to retry this case.
Okay.
So on November 7th, this of 2015, 2 years after he was convicted and 3 years after he was put in jail, he finally gets let out so that they can rehear his case.
Wow. So he did 3 years in the clink,
Yes.
and now he's finally released while he's going to go to trial again.
Yes.
Okay.
Now, in the meantime, before he gets released, this is Shirley Newman, and this is the mother of Pamela Hupp. Pamela Newman was her maiden name. Now, Shirley Newman in 2013, she falls off a balcony. Or just the day before, her daughter, Pamela, was staying at Shirley's house. Pamela calls and tells the people, hey, don't bother bringing breakfast to my mom. I'm here at the house. The next day at 2:30 p.m., they find Shirley dead down below, and the balcony up above in her apartment or her house where she lived, she was broken, and she was down there dead. Her body had, her body had something called Zolidem in it, and it was 8 times the amount that somebody should have.
Therapeutic dose, what we like to call it.
I can't remember what it was called, but it's called Zolidem that was in her system. So she is now found dead. But
Now
the
that's
detectives
wife
are
of Betsy.
This is mom
Or wife-
of Pamela.
Mom of Pamela. Okay.
Yep, mom of Pamela. She's now found dead. So she, by the way, was the recipient
Of her life insurance.
of her
too.
life insurance as well.
Hey!
Surprise, surprise. But they didn't have enough evidence to hold her there. They knew she was at the house, but it's her mom.
Yeah.
So she doesn't get charged on that. Now, this Russ, he gets released, and now he goes through his appellate trial. And guess what? It's overturned. Part of the reason it was overturned was because during the trial, the detective had said, oh, we don't have the photographs from the crime scene.
What?
This is what he says.
From a murder trial? They have the. I guarantee they're
What?
somewhere.
Well, your guarantee is right, because he did have the pictures, and he later, just in June of 2025, was convicted on 2 counts, charged with 2 counts of perjury because he lied about not having
The photographs.
crime scene photos. In those crime scene photos was more evidence to exonerate Russ from this. So some of that stuff that they had was, here's some of the evidence they used to overturn it. That Hupp had been the name of the sole beneficiary on a $150,000 life insurance policy that Betsy had.
5 days before she was murdered.
5 days before. She claims that she was supposed to use it for her daughters, but then Pam later on says, no, she wanted me to have it.
Of course.
And she says, following the death, she didn't give any of the money to the daughters. She also insisted that driving Betsy home from the chemotherapy treatment despite Betsy already having transportation arranged and despite Hupp claiming not to be familiar with the Troy area. She goes and picks her up. Remember how I said she brings her back about 7? What the detectives and the court did not tell during the first conviction was that Pamela's phone pinged for a half an hour after she drops her off at the house. Now, detectives would later on tell her daughters, oh, Pamela wasn't capable of killing your mom.
Pamela was capable of killing her mom.
So Pamela, what was the other thing is the position of Betsy's body suggested that she was murdered by somebody she trusted. You would think that Pam would potentially have done that on purpose to frame Russ, which worked initially. And then the last thing was Hupp texted home to Betsy's phone at 7:20 p.m., yet her cell phone records showed that Hupp's cell phone was still in the vicinity of Betsy's home. So she sends a text back to Betsy, says, hey, I made it home.
While she's still there over her dead body. While she's
still in the house over the dead body.
Absolutely.
So this is all overturned, but they still haven't charged Pam in this. Right. All they did was overturn it. Now, Russ, of course, files a lawsuit.
As he should.
And Russ ends up getting, I think, $2 million. It goes back and forth for years. Finally, he settles out of court. He gets $2 million. Not enough for spending 1 year in jail and 2 years in prison and going through this. And your wife was killed. I mean, just a horrible set of circumstances. But the story doesn't end there. Now we get into 2000, and this is the case that really kind of brings it all together. This man right here is Louis Gumpenberger. It's a funny name. So Louis Gumpenberger had some mental health issues, mental problems. He was involved in an accident many, many years before and was never the same, had some brain trauma. And so he was not all there. He was mentally challenged. Deficient, yeah. So on August 16th of 2016, so Russ is now out. He's no longer, his conviction has been overturned. And they get a call for Pamela's house. Pamela says, hey, I just shot and killed a man in my house. And the man that she shot and killed was Louis Gumpenberger. Now, it gets crazier, okay?
Wow,
so here's what had happened is she says to the police, supposedly her story is that he gets in the car with her and tries to kidnap her. And he's got a knife in the driveway of her house. She says she fights him off in the car. She runs into her house, and this man runs in after her into the house
and then she shoots
with a knife. Her saying is she says she does a karate chop.
Yeah.
And he drops the knife, and she runs in, gets her gun. It's a Ruger LCR. She grabs the gun, and she opens fire in the hallway of her home and shoots Louis Gumpenberger. When the police show up, they find a baggie with $900 in it. They also find a note that said, hey, take Hupp back to the house and get rid of her car. Make it look like Russ's wife. Make sure the knife is sticking out of the neck. She goes through she has this note in there. Well, funny thing is, the note was written on paper
from her house. Of course, she's like, let me write this note here.
So
holy cow.
The detectives, this time, they don't go for it. They see through the story, and they realize that Pamela indeed killed him.
Well, it's third time's the charm.
Yeah.
This is the third person she's killed.
So she goes through trial on this Louis Gumpenberger case. Well, let me show you. Here's some of the evidence that they had, okay? The cell phone records showed Hupp had been at Gumpenberger's neighborhood the night of the supposed attacker's front door, less than 1 hour before the shooting, casting down on her claim that she had never met him before. Okay. On August 10th, police report had been filed in St. Charles County, stating a woman matching Hupp's description had approached O'Fallon resident Carol Alford, also known as Carol McAfee, while posing as a Dateline NBC person. So the story is that Pamela convinces Louis Gumpenberg to come to the house under the guise that she is a NBC Dateline producer, gets him to come to the house for being part of a show. They said they found $900 bills in Gumpenberger's pocket, but they found a 10th on Hupp's dresser that had a sequential serial number.
Oh.
So the money ties back to her.
She went and got the money and then right.
The knife found in Hupp's car was found wedged between the passenger seat and the center console. Knives in Hupp's kitchen were of the similar manner and wedged between the stove and the countertop. So that was more evidence. The investigation suggested that the knife had been purchased at the Dollar Tree in O'Fallon, along with several other items in her house. She had purchased the paper on which the note was written for Gumpenberger.
Unbelievable.
Like, she didn't even try on this one.
That's not even...
She just was so confident she was going to get away with it.
She'd gotten away with the first two. That's what it is.
That's what it is.
Yep.
So then the investigators found that she had a carpet swatch in Hupp's home, appeared to have been positioned to protect the rug from Gumpenberger's blood. And investigators were skeptical that Gumpenberger would have been capable of carrying out the act that he even described.
Based on his physical and mental disabilities.
Makes sense. Mom actually sues, the mom of Gumpenberger sues her, gets a $3 million judgment.
I'll take that. Good.
Yeah.
Good for her.
Except she goes to trial on August 23rd of 2016. She was arrested. She ends up going to trial, and on December 16th, she goes to court on January 31st in 2017. Now, she could have got the death penalty.
Yeah.
So what she enters is something called an Alford plea. Do you know what an Alford plea was?
Never heard of it.
I had not heard of an Alford plea. So an Alford plea says, I'm not going to admit guilt, but I will take the sentence of the court.
You're guilty.
You're guilty. But you don't claim guilty.
Yeah. You're guilty without saying the word guilt.
Yes. She takes this Alford plea and she ends up getting, I want to say, life in prison for this crime. She gets life in prison.
Right there. She was sentenced with life without parole.
Yeah, life without parole. So she takes an Alford plea, gets life without parole, and now she's in jail. She tried to frame, not only did she frame this poor man once for killing his wife when she did it, she also claimed he was trying to kill her again.
Really?
The whole thing was she was trying to set this poor guy up and say he was there to kidnap her, bring her back to Russ's house.
Because, as if Russ had
As if he was mad because he had gone to prison for 3 years, which he probably was.
I'd be mad too.
So
$2 million helps though.
Now, Pamela's in jail. As of 2021, they have since filed charges for the murder of Betsy.
Okay.
They have since filed charges on Pamela Hupp. She was charged in July of 2021. Her trial is set for this year, 2026. Here's the thing.
I like it. That's a cool case.
It's a cool case because there's a wrongful conviction. I feel so bad for that guy.
Yeah.
The detective ends up getting charged because he lied on the stand. The lady ends up losing her position as an attorney. And I think one of the judges was suspended. Really? It was a whole slew of
all on the first
bad
trial.
Actors, all from the first trial. But she left a wake of victims behind. She had this man who was a victim. Her mom.
Yep.
Which detectives still believe they still have been trying to charge her on this. Mm-hmm. They did finally get the medical examiner to change the cause of death to unknown, where it was accidental.
Okay.
They have now changed it to unknown, which leaves
there's actually
three.
There's three victims.
One, two,
yep,
three.
In chronological order.
There you go. 1, 2, 3 victims.
What a shame. And that's the monster.
That's the monster. So what went from wrong to getting it right?
Yep.
She is now sitting in prison for life with no parole, and she will go to trial now for the murder of Betsy. And I pray that she gets justice and that this man who lost his wife and was wrongfully convicted gets justice as well.
Yep. That's a great story. That's a
crazy case, right?
That's some true crime right there.
That's true crime,
That's it.
folks. You heard it right here. Broke it down for you and Frank.
That's it.
And I'm glad-
I went on this ride with you guys.
It's disappointing to see that detectives pigeonholed. And we see that a lot of times in our profession where they think they have who they want.
Target focused.
They target focus. So much evidence. Her cell phone pinging, the life insurance change 5 days before she dies. All of those things should have been enough evidence and reasonable doubt.
Absolutely.
To not
that's
get
all
it-
exculpatory evidence. That's evidence that could show that there's a different side to it. And holding that back is against the law.
And not only did they not even look into her, they actually had her testify against Russ in his first trial.
I wouldn't do that. He must have did it.
He was mad because I got the insurance policy. That's what she
What
was
a
saying.
sociopath.
And she was saying that he was mad, and he had one time taken a pillow and put it over her face and said, "This is what it feels like to die." So she's up there on the stand, saying these things.
Like it's a stage, telling a story.
Right.
That's what she did. She told a story.
But this woman was a monster, and she finally got caught.
I like it.
Let me know what you think. Comment, like, subscribe, and we'll catch you on the next
it.
True
See you
Crime
next
video.
one.
And make sure you go and check out Frank's channel.
Check out my stuff. It's Frank Slope. Just Frank and then Slope. SLOUP. Check it out. You'll find some good stuff there too.
You're going to love it. All right, we'll catch you on the next True Crime.